as soon as you log into Slate. From here, you will notice that the first thing that you see, some types of reports. Now, those reports may change from time to time, and just check the links. Now, on the top, this is where you have the main functions of this application. So here is where you can search for the database for records, and we'll get into that in just a moment. The next one here is where you can check queries and reports, and those would be either queries that you create or quick queries or queries that are shared with you from other users. Then next to queries, we have also the Slate Reader. The Slate Reader is what you'll use for evaluating the applications. Under the Mailings tab, this is where you'll check the various mailings and campaigns that are designed to go out, obviously if you're provided access to that module. You also have the Inbox component and the various snippets. The Inbox is where you can check for messages that have been assigned to you or messages that have not been assigned to you or other users. Then further to the right, provided that you have access to this module, you'll notice the forms, events, and the scheduler module and the various database components. Now here under Discover Slate, this is where you can also learn about various resources that are available in Slate, such as a knowledge base, community forums, and so on. At this point, let's just very quickly search. So here, under the search component, we can type any part of a name of a user or a record, and it should bring it up. And you simply click on the record, and it will display a variety of pieces of information related to this record, and we'll get into this in a moment as well. So again, let me go back to search here. Then under search, notice that on the right-hand side, here you can search for persons, and this is the default option. Then you can search for all the applications, scholarship modules, contacts such as organization contacts related to schools, and then the actual organizations as well. Another component to keep in mind here, this is searches for various modules. On the top right, you also have the option to search for any of these modules in one comprehensive search. So if we want to search, for example, Neshaminy, it will look through all the things, but yet it's going to find the Neshaminy High School. If we search for my name here, notice that it's going to suggest various records, applicants, prospects, and other schools related similar to that name. Those are the main key elements here. So basically, these are the main components as you get started. In the next module, I'm going to go in depth as to how you search and somewhat customize the view for your applicants. In this segment of the Slate tutorial, I'll demonstrate how to search for individuals or records in Slate and then check also the various components or the dashboards and the various pieces of information related to that record. Here on the left, we have the option to search for records. Also, we have the global search on the top right as well that will search both for records, schools, organizations, or anything else that you have in the database. But most commonly, you're going to come in here and search for individuals. Now, in the search here, you can search for partial searches, let's say Sally, and it's going to list all the individuals with that particular name. Now, on the right-hand side here as well, you have this Customize View option. One of the views here is the counselor view with assigned prospects. So this is how you can check who are your students, the students that you'll manage, whether they are prospects or whether they are applicants as well. Now, by default, it's going to give you the name, the location of that individual, and then in this area, it's going to list whether they are a prospect and what major they have, what term they are considering and then what major they are considering. Again, this is for the prospect stage. These other two here are if they have an application that they have currently submitted. And then in the far right, this is what the status of the application is. You can use all kinds of other filters to filter through the information if you have hundreds of records and so on. So this view, you can further customize it by clicking here on Customize View, and then you select Export. And let's say that we want to display the campus along with the other fields that we currently see, other columns that we currently see. So we can click here on Campus and then click on Continue. And notice it's going to display it added at the very bottom. This is a little bit too long. You can click on this Edit option and simply select Campus. You can add filters if you want it as well, and then press Update. Notice that we have also the campus displayed for this particular record. Obviously, there are additional options that you can see here on filters and joins and all that type of stuff. Now, let me get a little bit into the actual record. So let's go here under the test record that I have. And notice that you have these tabs here on the very top. So you have the dashboard. This will give you a person dashboard. Further down, you have the biographic information. And then here you have the application, the current application for this particular student, along with the decision and the confirmation and so on. Now here under the activity history, this is where we have a mini dashboard of all the activities that this individual is doing. When they started engaging with our institution, and then how much engagement they had as time went on. So notice here, around April and May, this record had a lot more engagement. Now, each of these colors obviously has this mapping here as well, or this corresponding tag for it. So for example, the green ones are the emails that were sent to this record at some point in time. Now, further down, you have also the interactions from this individual. So on 5/25, they responded with a text message. And so on the right-hand side, you have the map based on the address information for this individual. Further down, you have the ways to connect with this individual, such as the email, phone, and mobile phone, and so on. These tags here, these are things that you can set. So there may be students that they should not be admitted. This is where you set this tag. Now, obviously, you want to be very careful with this because this will stop a lot of subsequent processes and emailing and so on. But if someone is an international student, you can simply click on that to tag it as such. Or if they're an athlete, they'll be marked with that color once that is selected. And you do that by simply clicking on it and then clicking OK, and then it'll change to that type of a tag. Now, under the unsubscribes, this is where it will display if the individual chooses to unsubscribe to various mailings. And then the status history, this will display when they inquired, when they became an applicant, and then when they enrolled or they admitted and ready to enroll. Under populations, here is where we have various categorizations. For example, this is an online student, and they will receive the grad or the online inquiry ComFlow. But they also belong in the School of Business graduate programs, and so on. The origins is, how did this record actually end up in Slate? What was the first entry point for this record? And this was basically they submitted an information request form on March 11th. Then here we also have the events that this individual participated or registered for, and you can also click on the event and it will display and you can actually check the actual registration for this individual. Now the next tab here is the timeline tab. The timeline tab, it basically includes everything that is happening with this record. So when they engaged, so notice this is kind of an reverse order here. This is the most recent activity on the left. Then in May, there was a lot more activity. And then in April, not as much, and so on. Here you have also by month the various interactions that took place with this individual. But one of the cool things that you can check here is that notice it will list what happened to the emails, and also you can click on any of these emails or communications, and you'll be able to see what they received at that point in time. Notice that you can also resend an email from here. Once you open it up, you can resend it back to them as well. Placed calls. If you recorded the call, it's going to also have this red dot here, and you can go and listen to the call again. Notice on the right-hand side, again, we are still in the tab timeline here. On the right-hand side, you also have, you can categorize those or filter those interactions in the timeline by simply selecting just the interactions. What happened back and forth between you and this student. You can even sub-filter it here by just the sources or just the messages and so on. You can check what the campaign information, the mailings that they received, and so on. So it's a very helpful tool for you to track history for this individual. The next tab here is application that this individual has submitted. If the individual applies for multiple terms or multiple years, then there will be multiple tabs in here that you will see. Now, and we'll get into all the stuff related to the application in a little bit, or in another video, actually. So the application, as you saw earlier, you can access it also from the dashboard here, and it will take you to the same tab as well. The next component here is the profile. This is a lot of stuff related to this individual, but it's kind of aggregated, anything person related. So it may have stuff from the application that it has included as part of this individual's profile. So here we have the various biographic information, the address, the contact information, the academic history. But notice this is just a general overview. On the right-hand side here, obviously we're in profile here. On the right-hand side, you have the biographical information. And this is where you can update various pieces of information here and put in the preferred name or last names and so on. And basically you're kind of overriding whatever they have submitted at some point in time. Then under the contact and address area, this is where you can view the various contact mechanisms. So you have their email addresses listed, then right below it you have the various addresses available for this particular individual. You can add a new address, and by the way, those addresses will be verified with the U.S. Postal Service. So sometimes you may type something a certain way, but the Postal Service will be readjusting it for you automatically. Then here you can also modify or tweak various addresses or delete addresses if need be, or mark an address as temporary and so on. But if I wanted to delete this, simply press that. Obviously, you want to be cautious that you delete the right thing. Further down here is where you have the various relationships, who the legal guardian for this individual is, whether they have brothers and sisters, and so on. And you can click on it and you'll be able to view their record and the profile for that legal guardian as well. Further down, you'll have the various schools that this individual has attended, and you'll be able to click on the actual school and see additional details and also what the GPA for this individual was from that particular school. Now, this trickles down from the application, or you can have it trickle down from or enter it manually, or it could be through forms and so on, but it's basically aggregated as part of the profile for this record. Further down here, this is where you have the scores. This would be the scores that they report through the application process, or scores that are entered as you receive their official transcripts. And here you can click on Insert New Score, select the type of score that you have received, the date, and so on, whether it was self-reported or verified, and all the various types of scores from here, from these fields. Then you press Save, and they will be part of this record. Under Jobs, this is where you can view, and again, this is tied to the application or various forms. And this is where that information will result. You can update it from here and so on. Now, obviously, we do not ask for all of these pieces of information from the application. Under Courses, we are currently not using it, but we could tie it to various courses that they are taking at a particular point in time or that they have taken from a particular institution. So, for example, from the Chamonix High School would list the actual course, the course number, the grade, and so on, and basically track the various courses that they have participated in those institutions. The next tab here is the interests. This is where it will be listing the various interests that this individual has, whether the various roles. Now, these trickle from the application, but obviously, you can add them manually from here as well for that particular record. Under Sports, this is, again, this comes from the application, but you can add new sports. You can see how interested they are in a particular sport and notes and so on. The account, under the account area, this will list the email, and you can merge various accounts that may be similar, and it will list also when this individual logged in and where they logged in from and what browsers they used and all that type of stuff. On the right here, this is where you can actually create an application for this. You can start an application for this applicant and get it started. And I'm not going to go through that for now, but it's basically just will start an application, and then you can pick a major just like as if they were filling it out. Under Restore Application, this is where you can pick an old application that was deleted at a certain point in time, and you can select to restore it by simply clicking on it, choosing Restore, and that should do it. Under the Slate ID, this probably you don't want to change or tweak, but this is where you'd modify deep level stuff, and we do not suggest that you touch this at this point. The next tab here in this module is the materials. Under materials, this is where, think of it like the file that you have for this record. So you have obviously the profile information, and these could be your index cards, but now you also have various materials, various stuff that you're collecting as time goes by. And now they have submitted this through their various applications. It could be the personal testimony. For example, the personal testimony, they could submit it this year, but then 3 years from now, they apply for grad school, and the testimony will be already submitted. There is no need for them to resubmit it again. So the materials are basically something that exists in the system, and as part of the future applications, it will count toward their credit. They don't have to do it again. Now, to view one of those materials, you'd simply click on any of these materials and it will open it up. You can click here on display, and it'll display the content of that particular material. Now, in this case, there was not a whole lot as part of this testimony, but there it is. You can delete them, as you noticed a moment ago there. You can go here, let's say the transcripts, and click on it, and it will open. Obviously, this is not a transcript, but it would have the transcript information that they uploaded or we received at some point in time, and so on. So all that to say that this is how you simply click on that material, open it up, take a look. Now, you're not going to need to necessarily evaluate each one of those pieces this way for the application, because the application aggregates this information as part of the review process that we'll cover later. And then the next tab here is the portfolio. The portfolio is if this applicant submitted a portfolio at some point in time, the materials will show up in here, or you could upload media as you receive it through various other mechanisms to put it as part of this record. And you basically simply drag and drop files in here or select files and upload them manually. Or you can upload a link to some other resource or a video or YouTube or Google Drive that they may be using. In this segment of the Slate tutorial for counselors, I'm going to go over the various components of managing a student application. So first, we're going to understand the pieces and the components of the application. Obviously, we have the front end component of the application that the students submit, but then all those pieces, they go somewhere on the back end or on Slate. So we're going to try to understand that. So we are here logged in as a counselor, and we go here to search database records. We simply click on it, and obviously we have here the dashboard. We're not going to go through that those details at this point, the dashboard components here. And notice in the bottom we have the major or the program that they were interested in when they applied, and so on, and what the status of this application is. Now we could click on it from here, and it will give us this stuff, or here and go to this tab. As many times as they apply, there will be separate tabs in here, so it'll keep on going. So now we can go to the application. We click here. It will give us an overview as to what the status of it is. There's no decision made. So you have the checklist. This is a list of items or requirements for admission in this program. So in this case, we need the personal testimony. In this case, the student has submitted the personal testimony at this date. Then there is also a transcript that the student submitted at the same time as well, and so on, that we received. The next component here is various materials that are related to the program itself. So these are like basically the stuff up here. Those are just the checklist items that the students can cross out or cross out. But then because of those checklist items, there are also stuff that they submitted. So the transcript that they submitted, this is a copy, it's something that they sent on their own. You can click on it, evaluate it. Then, if it met the requirement for the MBA, if let's say they don't need the MBA stuff anymore, then we click on Received, and that will mark it as received and confirmed, so they don't have to apply anything with MBA prerequisites. Further down here, this is the decision area. This is where you add a particular decision for this student. And then further down, this is where you have the activities that relate to this record. So for example, this is at one point in time we received a transcript, and you'd be able to click on it to see details, time and date, and all that stuff. Then we received the personal testimony. So this is again the details for the stuff that we received. But then there was an application fee. When they submitted the application fee, the fee was waived because they used a waiver code and so on. Here is where it will show also various payment, such as the deposit required and all that type of stuff. And this is where you would be able to delete a payment or add a payment and so on by using this new activity. Now, a lot of those payments will be automated, so you shouldn't have to touch them, but that's where you'd complete this function. So all that to say that you have the application here, you have the checklist requirements. Typically, you want this stuff to be green. And once the stuff here is green, then the system will update this record. Instead of awaiting materials, it will move it to ready to be evaluated stage or status. And it hasn't put that in yet already there because it has to update after 15 to 30 minutes time behind the scenes. And I'll show you how you update the record manually. So these are the major pieces. Again, you're evaluating this, you're looking at materials, checklists, decisions. So basically, once you do these evaluations, you or checking these components, typically you'd use what's called to read the application and evaluate the whole application, which basically it's cataloging all these pieces in a series of documents together. And that's on the right-hand side here. Notice on the right-hand side, you also have these additional tabs. You have the financial aid tab. This is where the financial aid stuff would show up and materials related to financial aid. Various workflows for this applicant. Right now, it's still in waiting materials. That's the bin that this application is. The portfolio, this is stuff related, like where we can upload, if there was a digital portfolio for that particular program, this is where the materials would show up. Now, obviously, some of this stuff is part of the record that I covered in the previous video. Applies to. Then under the read application, this is where you'd go to read that student application. And we'll get into that in the next video because of the components related to it. It's basically going to be the part to evaluate the application, the student application. Then here you can also download the whole application as a PDF document. And it'll include the headers and footers, and you can choose to insert certain elements, or so you want to insert all, if you want all of them, all the pieces, or you can pick certain pieces. And you can click on download. Once downloaded, you can give it a name, meaningful name other than what's there by default. And then you'd open this up. Further down, here's where you can edit the application details. So let's say you have a student that comes back to you and says, oh, I didn't mean to submit it yet and I wanted to change a couple things in it. Well, you can go actually in here under the edit application details, and if you uncheck this submitted, then it will make it for the available again for the students to make changes to the application. You can change priorities, or you can set it to inactive if necessary, or even delete. Obviously, you don't want to delete some unnecessary application, but let's say you have a student that really wants to start over, which there shouldn't be a case. There should be modifying the existing application anyway. And but you could do it from here. There are a couple options as well, additional options that I'll cover in the next module that will see how to view the student's application, what they see on their end. And I'll show that to you in a moment. Then we also have another module here called Care and Scholarships, and we'll cover that in a later module as well. So stay tuned. we are in this video, or this segment of the video was just for the components of the application. The next video will go into the actual reviewing of the application and what the components or the process for deciding the application and reviewing the application is. In this segment of the Slate tutorial, I'll demonstrate how to impersonate an applicant. This is for you to see exactly what the applicant sees on their end and potentially help them along the way. You can do this for the actual application and also see what they see on their status page as well, on their portal page. If we go to the application tab for this particular record, on the right-hand side, we have the Impersonate Applications option. This will give us the actual application for that particular applicant. So we click on it, we click on Open the application, and we can make actually modifications to this application as if we were the applicant. Actually, in this case, the applicant has submitted the application and they can't make any changes, but we could actually go in as the counselor and make any relevant changes. Typically, the students, they have an application portal, and sometimes you want to make sure that they have whatever they need to have on their end, and to verify that, you can click on Impersonate Status Page, and this is what, in this case, Karen Online sees. These are the various activities that they have, the options that they can select to upload additional stuff, and the payments as well. Now, this list will change as they progress through the application process as well, but you could help them identify what they see on their end and troubleshoot it along the way. So that's the purpose of these two tools. In the next video, I'm going to demonstrate then how to actually review the application and assess the application. In this segment of the Slate tutorial, I'll demonstrate how to evaluate applications. So typically, once the checklists have turned green here, all the check marks have been turned green, or you can go manually and mark stuff as received or waived here. Typically, you want to make sure it's all green. And if there is nothing pending update here on the top, then those will be moved automatically to the read bin. Or think of it as a tray or multiple trays where you're putting these different types of applications. You can do this two ways. You can go on the right-hand side here and choose Read Application, and then click on Workflow, and then select the Karen Application Review. Then click on Read, and it'll bring you to the reading mechanism for the actual applications or the actual application. The other way that you can get to the read component is if we go here on the top under Reader, and then we go under Slate Reader. Notice that we have all these different components, but the one that you'll use as a counselor is this one, Karen Application Review. And then you'll click here on Browse, and notice you have these boxes in multiple places. So you have boxes for the graduate programs and then boxes for the undergrad programs. Think of these as trays, bins, as Slate refers to. Now, typically you want to read the ones that are in the first read or the counselor, whether you are in the grad section or the undergrad section down here as well. So depending on which one you are. So you typically click on that particular bin and you'll see what applications are in that particular bin that require review. So that's one way to do this, and you can go and check the various bins. So for example, here we have At the grad level, there are 3 applications pending payment, and then there are some that have been admitted and some admitted conditionally, and so on. Now, so this is the global view to check multiple where stuff is at different levels and stages. Now, the other way that you'll most commonly use is to go to the actual record for that applicant. So let's say Karen Online, we go here to the application, and on the right-hand side, you click here on Read Application. We go on to read the application. We select the workflow. And notice, because this has been assigned to me, it's in my queue. I'll click on it. I'll click on Read. And now at this point, I can use these annotation tools on the bottom and highlight stuff. Notice I can put also notes. This on the left here, you have these different tabs. Now to navigate through the pages, to go through each one of those tabs, you can use the arrows on the keyboard, and it'll give you each component of the application in an aggregated way. Then once you have reviewed the application and made an assessment of it, then you'll click here on Review Form, and you'll complete a form. This is not the final decision. You're not alerting the student yet. You're just completing the assessment, your assessment for this application. You'll click here that you are the admissions counselor, and you'll make a decision how you want to accept them, conditional, unconditional, and so on. If it's going to be conditional of some sort, then you'll need to put comments. If it's going to be academic, you'll have to select one of those options. And here, you'll put comments. And then you have to determine which bin to send this next. So who do you want to pass it on to? To what other staff you want to send this to? Actually, or basically think of it as bins or trays. So you could send it to the admit bin or admit conditional. In this case, it was admit conditional academic, so it's going to need to be under admit conditional. Now, one thing to remember as well is that if there are scholarships related to an applicant, then you need to select the option here for scholarship validation. It needs to be sent to that scholarship validation director of admissions. So for now, I'm going to simply put it under admit conditional and then press send. So this will conclude our assessment or evaluation of this application. So that's how you'll do the assessment of this application. Now, typically, you could also go back here under Browse, and you could browse for various other applications that you may want to work on or check out, and so on. Now, there may be cases where you may need to move something from one bin out to another so that you can process the application. So in this case, let's say we have these applications waiting in the pending mode here. So it's pending waiting payment. We have this application that it's stuck in the waiting payment mode. Now, obviously, you want to sort out the waiting payment component there, but let's say we want to just move this forward. We can click to display this copy of the application. You can add it to your queue because this was not assigned to you. That's why you want to add it to your queue. So we'll add it to the queue, and then we'll click on the bottom right here to review form and send to the bin. So in this case, before we can actually review it, it has to be in the reading folder or the reading bin. So we sent it there. Now we go and browse for it, and it should show up in here. So notice we have Ephraim here in the reading bin. We click on it. Again, we are grabbing this where it didn't belong in the right spot. We are just moving it from one place to another. That's why we have to take these additional steps. Then we add it to your own queue because it was not assigned to you. And then you assess, you click on the review form on the bottom, and then you press that your admissions, you're going to accept this unconditionally. And then you're going to forward this to another bin. You're either going to in the admit bin or send it for scholarship validation. So I put in the admit, press send, and we are done with these. So that's how you'll work through the various application assessments, reviewing them, and completing the form for the assessment of those applications. Now, to get out of this mode, we click here on exit, and this will take us back to the preview of the application. Now, if we refresh this, notice right now I have not refreshed it yet, but if we refresh this, there should be stuff that is pending. Notice on the top here. And also there is this review form. So the applications that were reviewed by particular counselors, you can actually go and check them out and assess what each evaluator stated. So you can click here and it will display the various details, the time and date, and so on when that evaluation was completed. In this segment of the Slate tutorial, I'll demonstrate how to release decisions for an application. There are a couple ways to release decisions. One is to do them in bulk, and the other one is to do them one at a time. And here at Cairn, probably the best would be to do them one at a time because of the volume. And it's going to be easier as well, less complex. So notice here at this stage, this is awaiting a decision for this application. That's the status of it. So we need to go down here under decisions to add the new decision for the release of this decision. Now, before you make a decision, obviously you want to take a look at the review forms. Review forms, this would be the forms that the counselors have completed, or it could be the forms that Director of Admissions, a scholarship review, submitted, or the deans have submitted as well. You can click on the forms, you can see the comments that they submitted, and so on. So in this case, they are recommending that it would be a conditional academic. So we go here to New Decision, and then we need to select a decision code. In most cases, you're going to select the Admit decision. Then the next component here is that you need to provide a reason for the admission. So you're going to select Admit Conditional Academic. And then as for the letter, this is where you would specify what letter to choose. By default, it's going to send this one. Then it's important to also select these next two options because they are required. So confirmed, that means that you're confirming this decision at this date and time. Remember, this is a major action that you're taking. Then under released, this is where you're going to specify when the student can view it, when it can be released for the student to view it. You can schedule them obviously in the future, and it is recommended that you actually select here about 15 minutes from the time that you're going to publish or confirm them. Then you can put here comments, and if you have custom letters that you want to send them or custom documents, you can attach them from here. Now, once you press save, a whole bunch of stuff happens behind the scenes. And typically the system will update those changes within 15 minutes or so. To run the updates immediately, you need to force an update on this profile. Now, if the student goes to their portal at this point in time, they are going to see that there is a new update on their application. They will also receive an email within 24 hours. The email is kind of delayed because they prefer, or Slate prefers, that you send them a paper copy first and then they get the digital version of the admission thing. So in my case, I'm going to force an update on this record at this time. And then I'm going to simulate, go and log in as a student and see what it looks like for the process. So the record has been updated at this point. Now I'm going to log in, or I'm actually logged in as the Karen Online account. I'll reload it, refresh it. Notice it says there's a status update. The student will go here to view update, and they'll get this letter. Obviously, that'll be the actual name of the student, and it gives them the next steps for what they need to do. They can click here because they need to let us know. Sometimes they apply to more than one college, and we need to know whether they are still planning to come to Karen or not. Now, in this case, they can click here to reply to the offer of admission, or they can go to the portal and there'll be a link in there as well. So they come in here and they can choose to decline, and then we kind of prefer that they give us a reason why, or they go here to accept, and then they press submit. At this point, notice that they are prompted to then next submit the payment of $150. They can click in here and pay via credit card or using a bank account. So that's what the process will look on the student side of things. Now, if we return back to the record needs to be updated. So if we refresh it, notice that there are pending updates because the student responded with some kind of action. Now, in this next part, I'm going to show you how you can waive the fee, the deposit fee for particular students, because there will be cases where you need to waive that fee at the graduate level or whatever level there, obviously with permission and so on. So you come down here under activities and notice that there is a payment due for this particular applicant. You'll click on it and notice there's an option for payment waived. You will click on payment waived, and then you can put comments down here, grad student or whatever, and then press save. Next, you'll need to wait either 15 minutes for the systems to update, or you can run an update on this record manually. And then if we press display, at this point, you'll notice that the application status, it will show as decided. If we go to the record, it says decided, and it is the student is in enroll status, and it's a confirmed enroll status. So pretty much you're done with the student as far as getting them through the application process. In this brief video, I demonstrate how to send an email using AI or ChatGPT within Slate. So here's how you use it. You go here to email, to send an email to one of the students or applicants. Now on the very bottom here, notice there are these little stars. Click on that, and then simply type a couple of the prompts that you want to send to the student. So for example, thank you for your application. Please submit your latest transcript and a deposit of $150, or whatever else that you want to say. So once you put in, all you have to do is put a couple of the prompts, whatever the big ideas are that you want to convey to the student. Then just simply click on this button right here, and it will create an email for you. And all you have to do is you press insert, and notice it will have copied this automatically for this particular record. Now, of course, in this case, I had it bolded, but you can change that and reread it, make it a couple of adjustments, and press send, and that's it. That's how you use the AI tools within Slate.